Despite being America's favorite clown, he had a darker side behind his silly smile. Following their acrimonious split, Jerry Lewis surreptitiously attempted to ruin Dean Martin's career for more than 40 years. Jerry phoned the studio to terminate Dean after he was cast in a film. Jerry bribed radio stations not to play a song that Dean had released. Jerry refused to apologize, even as Dean lay dying. He went to great lengths to destroy his renowned partner, as stunning new evidence shows today. On March 16, 1926, Jerry Lewis was born in Newark, New Jersey. Both Danny and Ray Levitch, his dad, were entertainers. While his father played the piano and served as musical director, his mother performed on stage and cracked jokes. Jerry was surrounded by show business from the beginning, since his parents were entertainers. However, maturing wasn't simple. Jerry's family was not an exception to the harsh effects of the Great Depression. He had little money, and was uneasy about the world. Nevertheless, Jerry had a lot of vitality. He enjoyed pulling practical jokes, such as breaking into kitchens to steal food, and he had a wild side. There were already hints of the comic he would become in that light-hearted nature. When he was just 5 years old, he made his stage debut. He was taken by his parents to the Catskill Mountains, a popular destination for Jewish performers. "Brother, Can You Spare a Dime?" is the song he performed there. A song that encapsulated the hardships people were going through. The scene wasn't only adorable, it was Jerry's first genuine experience of performance, and it had an impact. Jerry, however, frequently stayed behind while his parents traveled for work. He felt alone since he spent so much time with his grandma. Later on, behind the laughter, that loneliness would make its way into his humor. Jerry came up with something new when he was 12 years old. He invented the record act, feigning to sing along with well-known songs. He didn't only wiggle his lips though, he performed each line in a large, humorous, and extravagant manner. He practiced every motion for hours in front of a mirror. It became his trademark act, and demonstrated his already high level of creativity. Jerry realized he didn't desire a typical existence by the time he was a teenager. He desired to amuse. He so left high school at the age of 15. He was sincere, but it was a big bet. He began playing in tiny theaters and bars all across New York City. The journey wasn't easy. After one particularly terrible burlesque performance, he was unable to secure a booking for some time. Jerry took various jobs to make ends meet. He was an usher at a movie theater and a soda jerk. He persisted even though it wasn't glamorous. No matter how long it took, he persisted in pursuing his ambition. He also made the decision to alter his stage name at this time. He first went by Joey Lewis, which caused him to be confused with other entertainers like Joey Lewis and boxer Joe Louis. He began referring to himself as Jerry Lewis, in order to address it. Although it appeared to be a minor alteration, it would ultimately be with him indefinitely. Something that will alter both his life and humor in general occurred in 1945. Jerry was in New York, doing his act at the Glass Hat nightclub. He was just 23. At that point he saw Dean Martin, a handsome, smooth vocalist who was 5 years his senior. Later, Jerry said that he had never seen a more attractive man. Although they met that evening, nothing significant happened. Nevertheless, Jerry kept thinking about Dean. He continued to attend Dean's performances throughout the course of the next year in an attempt to get close. Dean was not impressed. Jerry, he felt, was overly eager and obnoxious. Then everything fell into place in July 1946. Both men were scheduled to play in Atlantic City's 500 Club. They had to come up with something combined or risk losing their jobs because the club owner didn't appreciate their individual acts. They attempted something unusual because they had very little time to plan. During the performance, Jerry began to tease Dean's singing and wreak havoc on the stage. The audience adored it. Something fresh was born that night. The audience was giggling uncontrollably as Jerry and Dean had established their rhythm. Hollywood was astonished when Jerry Lewis signed a contract on March 3rd. He was given $10 million and 60% of the proceeds from 14 films over 7 years by Paramount Pictures. He was the most paid actor in town as a result. Additionally, he was granted creative control. something that virtually no one else had. He had the last say over the editing of his films and would eventually control the rights to them after 30 years. "I'll give Jerry the match if he wants to burn down the studio," stated Barney Bellabun, the boss of Paramount. Although it was a risky move, Lewis was prepared to demonstrate his independence. The Delicate Delinquent, his debut solo feature, was released in 1957. The two had broken up, but it was still intended to be a Martin and Lewis film. Lewis was required to rework the screenplay and direct the movie himself. He worked on sequences all night long, attempting to get them just so. Without Dean Martin, many people believed it would be impossible to counterbalance Jerry's outrageous humor, but they were mistaken. The picture earned nearly $6 million, which is twice as much as their last collaboration. The critics were taken aback. They enjoyed Jerry's performance, particularly the sequence in which his character Sidney Pythias talks about how important he feels. Lewis had battled to preserve that scene in the film. It demonstrated that he had goals beyond amusing people. Lewis was prepared to direct by 1960. The Bellboy is the title of the film he came up with. In a matter of weeks he wrote, directed and photographed the whole project. That summer, Paramount had intended to release Cinderfella, another movie. Lewis, however, refused. He hoped that one will be released around Christmas. To fill the void, he created the Bellboy. He used a brand new technique he created, video assist, to record it at the Fontainebleau Hotel in Miami. It immediately allowed him to view what he had just captured. All directors use it now. In 1960, The Bellboy was released on July 20th. It was well received by reviewers and earned over $10 million. They referred to it as a visual comedy lesson. Jerry Lewis has become more than just a celebrity. In addition, he was a producer, director and writer. Then in 1963, came The Nutty Professor. Lewis portrayed two rather distinct roles this time. Buddy Love is a smooth-talking ladies' guy, while Julius Kelp is a shy and awkward scientist. Lewis got the concept from a genuine person he had met, a jittery, odd individual. He worked on Kelp's movements and speech for months. He utilized recollections of sleek nightclub boys he had seen for Buddy Love. Lewis denied that the character was modeled on Dean Martin, despite speculation to the contrary. It was difficult to switch between the two jobs. Although it required a lot of physical discipline and work, the sequences where Kelp transforms into Buddy Love were worthwhile. The movie became a classic and earned $19 million. It was dubbed a masterpiece by critics. It was selected for the National Film Registry, which safeguards films significant to American culture. Years later, Jerry Lewis was more than simply well known by the middle of the 1960s. He was powerful. His films continued to earn a profit. He still had the charm, as seen by hits like The Patsy and The Disorderly Orderly. He earned over $10 million in 1966 alone, which is more than $80 million today. He became one of the wealthiest artists in the nation as a result. His actions were observed by other actors. His agreement with Paramount was a game changer. Stars began to want better terms and greater control. Hollywood's balance of power started to change. Jerry Lewis, the man who made people laugh with his outrageous quips, loud voices and goofy expressions, was well known for being crazy and amusing. However, he took a completely unexpected action in 1982. In the film The King of Comedy, he had a serious part. There are no jokes or clowning around, just a talk show presenter named Jerry Langford, who is silent and icy, and who is chased by a desperate admirer, Robert De Niro. At first they were unsure on how to interpret it. Lewis wasn't trying to make jokes, he was being honest. Langford also appeared worn out, lonely, and aloof, which was sort of depressing. A far cry from the boisterous, silly roles Lewis typically portrayed. However, the critics took note. In that silent performance, they recognized something audacious. It appeared as though Lewis had briefly removed the mask to reveal the true significance of his notoriety. Although it didn't earn much money at the time, the film eventually gained a following. It is now regarded as one of Martin Scorsese's greatest movies. What part did Lewis play in it? It is still discussed. He prepared, rather than just showing there and acting. He observed how actual talk show hosts sat, moved and behaved when the cameras were not rolling. In order to remain in character, he avoided interacting with any of the actors on site, including De Niro. And he worked himself up with some extreme techniques when he wanted to get upset for a scene. Although it wasn't simple, and wasn't adored by everyone on site, it was successful. His delivery was honest and unvarnished, and perhaps even somewhat intimate. Lewis shocked everyone once more when he was 69 years old. He took the stage on Broadway this time. He played Mr. Applegate, the devil himself, in the Damn Yankees production. People adored it. In addition to being naturally humorous, he exuded charm and vitality. He also sang. He performed a dance. The stage belonged to him. He was doing more than reading lines. He was improvising and transforming small moments into treasures, which was his specialty. Without even referring to the script, Lewis managed to garner chuckles by turning a noisy candy unwrapping by an audience member into a comedic moment one evening. He earned every dime of the $40,000 he was paid each week for the show. He did not relax after Broadway. He continued to work long after most people would have retired, taking the act on tour and playing in 50 locations nationwide. He voiced The Simpsons at the age of 77, portraying Professor Frank's father. A few years later, at the age of 80, he appeared on Law & Order, SVU in a serious role that served as a reminder to everyone that he was more than just a clown. However, Martin and Lewis existed before all of that, before the television series, films, and celebrity. They began their career playing little clubs on the East Coast. They were initially unknown, yet they possessed a unique quality. Dean Martin was a silky singer with a relaxed appeal, who was cool and collected. Jerry Lewis acted like a human cartoon, bouncing, yelling, pulling faces, and playing off Dean. They were amazing together. It was quickly seen by others. They started packed clubs in a matter of weeks. They were making $5,000 a week in a matter of months, which was a substantial sum at the time. They never looked back after signing with a prominent talent agency. Everything happened extremely quickly: sold-out performances, radio broadcasts, and nightclub appearances. They seemed to be everywhere at once. Their performance was witty, erratic, and full of jokes, music, and quick-witted banter. The crowds were enthralled. By 1948 they were performing as the main act at prestigious venues such as New York's Copacabana. After NBC granted them their own radio program in 1949, millions of listeners began to tune in each week. Jerry pretended to be a turkey in one episode, in an attempt to get out of Thanksgiving dinner. People liked it when Jerry went crazy and Dean played it straight. They were earning $15,000 a week from the radio alone by 1950. From then the call from Hollywood was inevitable. My Friend Irma, their debut film, was released in 1949. It was well received. The following ones were too. They collaborated on 16 films over 7 years, and viewers were enthralled. Their films combined their unique chemistry with comedy and song. It was a formula that consistently produced positive results. At War with the Army, earned more than $15 million. Living It Up, another, made almost $20 million. The numbers were enormous, and as a result, Paramount Pictures was prospering. They continued to make hit after success even as their relationship became acrimonious behind the scenes. Hollywood or Bust, their 1956 last collaboration, continued to draw sizable audiences. On TV, their relationship appeared indestructible, even if in real life, they could have been coming apart. By the end of it, their films had earned more than $200 million. Not bad for two men who just wanted to make people laugh when they first started out at small venues. Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin were extremely successful by the early 1950s. They were everywhere, not just well known. At nightclubs, people waited in line to see them. They dominated television, controlled radio, and crammed their films into cinema theaters. They signed a record-breaking $35 million contract with NBC in 1953. No one has ever seen such a huge TV agreement. They received $220,000 for only one Colgate Comedy Hour episode. Today, that is equivalent to $2 million. Not only were they succeeding, they were becoming extremely wealthy. Each year, they earned around $5 million from their radio appearances, live performances and films. The average American family at the time earned around $4,400 annually. In fewer than 24 hours, Martin and Lewis might earn that, and they were no longer only entertainers. They launched their own business, York Images, in order to create their own art and retain a larger portion of the profits. They also invested in real estate and other wise ventures. It seemed like everything they touched grew, but there was a price for all that prosperity. They worked around the clock, performing at night and filming throughout the day. They were worn down by it. Additionally, tension was rising behind the scenes. Jerry was taking charge of their tasks more and more. While Dean only wanted to perform and go home, he was really interested in the creative side of things and the financial issues. The enjoyment began to wane slowly. They were at their breaking point by 1956. The alliance that had propelled them to the top was disintegrating. They decided to break up, which was a tough choice. It was finished after 10 years of triumph and joy. Although their split seemed to herald the end of an era, their time together had a lasting impact on humor. Then an unforeseen event occurred. They made their last appearance at the Copacabana in New York on July 25, 1956, precisely 10 years after their first performance together. 2 weeks later, Jerry received a call that completely altered his life. Due to strep illness, Judy Garland was unable to appear at the Frontier Hotel in Las Vegas. They requested Jerry to fill it in. With only himself and a waiting audience anticipating Garland, he had no time nor a strategy to practice. Making it up as he went, he took the stage. He performed an entirely improvised act that had the crowd laughing for 55 minutes. He sang "Rockabye Your Baby," a song he hadn't sung since he was a child, with a Dixie melody at the conclusion. The audience erupted. He received a standing ovation from them. Everything changed that night. He recorded the song after 3 days. It flew, sold more than 1.4 million copies. Then came Jerry Lewis Just Sings, his debut solo album. It spent 16 weeks in the top 10 after peaking at number 3 on the Billboard charts. Industry insiders who believed he couldn't succeed without Dean were taken aback. However, Jerry Lewis wasn't only getting by 1959. On his own, he was a star. He revealed another side of himself decades later. At the age of 87, he acted in the somber and subdued film Max Rose 2013, which followed a jazz pianist as he coped with the loss of his wife. It was a significant departure from his trademark crazy humor. His performance was hailed by critics. Despite the film's lackluster box office performance, Jerry demonstrated that he still had the ability to inspire people. In 2016, he played his last part in The Trust, where he co-starred with Elijah Wood and Nicolas Cage. Even at 90 years old, he had his spark. He was able to hold the screen, even in a little role, by striking a unique balance between comedy and profundity. A lengthy and unexpected career came to a modest but appropriate end. His private life was equally complicated. On October 3, 1944, Jerry wed Patty Palmer, his first wife. He was only getting started at the age of 18. Gary, Ronald, Scott, Christopher, Anthony, and Joseph were their 6 boys throughout the course of the following 20 years. They appeared to be the ideal family at first, but celebrity had its costs. Jerry was constantly working and away from home due to his schedule. To make matters worse, he also battled a prescription medication addiction. During the height of his popularity in 1956, there were rumors that he had an affair with Marilyn Monroe. The strain at home was only heightened by it. Nevertheless, Patty and Jerry remained together for many years. However, their marriage was failing by the late 1970s. After 36 years of marriage, Patty filed for divorce in 1980. She pointed to his careless spending and infidelity. Before ending in 1983, the divorce dragged on for 3 years and became acrimonious. Jerry's second marriage was consummated only a month later. Sandy Pitnick, his second wife, used to be a dancer in Las Vegas. He was 57. She was 32 years younger. Many were taken aback by the time, but they remained together. They adopted a daughter, Danielle Sarah Lewis, in 1992 when Jerry was 66. He was quite happy about the adoption, even though no one anticipated it. He frequently said that Danielle gave him fresh vitality. Jerry Lewis never gave up. Even as his body started to malfunction, he continued to go ahead, clinging to the limelight as if it were his lifeblood. He was given a pulmonary fibrosis diagnosis in 2001. His age was 75. For someone whose whole existence had been based on rapid-fire speech and outrageous physical humor, the disease's ability to make breathing difficult was a nasty twist. To address it, doctors prescribed prednisone. The medication was helpful, but it had a cost. Jerry's weight quickly increased to 56 pounds. Even tying his shoes got difficult all of a sudden. He didn't appear to be the Jerry that folks had known. Even though the slender, bouncy comic was no longer there, he continued. In the 1990s, he had previously battled prostate cancer. Most individuals would have reduced their speed. Jerry didn't. Even when the medication caused him to sink into a profound despair, he overcame it. Later on, he said that he considered suicide. He didn't stop though. He suffered a heart attack in San Diego in 2006 at the age of 80. He returned to the stage a few months later. He passed out from dangerously low blood sugar just before he was scheduled to speak at an event in 2012. However, he returned to complete it once he healed. He was working on making The Nutty Professor a Broadway musical that same year. He was 85. "I must complete what I have begun," he remarked. It was evident that Jerry's health had deteriorated by the time he turned 90 in 2016. He talked candidly about the agony he was experiencing and found it difficult to walk. Nevertheless, he attended a final lavish party in New York, where he was surrounded by celebrities and longtime friends. In August 2017, the following year, he passed away. He died quietly at home in Las Vegas, surrounded by his loved ones, at the age of 91. The tributes arrived in a flash. He was referred to as a genius by Jim Carrey, who remarked, "I am because he was." However, things changed a few weeks later. Everyone was astonished to learn about Jerry's will. Back in 2012, he had said unequivocally that his 6 boys from his first marriage would receive nothing, not a dime, not even a token of affection or goodbye. He even made a special effort to ensure that their kids wouldn't get anything. When others recalled his son Joseph, the narrative took an even more sinister tone. In the past, Joseph had resembled Jerry the most. Up until 1989, when everything broke apart, he was sensitive, artistic, and close to his father. In an interview, Joseph said that his life with Jerry had been a misery. He said Jerry never demonstrated true affection and abused his kids. Jerry felt deceived. He stopped talking to Joseph altogether after that. No more visits, no more calls, nothing. Joseph went into a spiral. He lost everything due to addiction, homelessness, and mental illness. He lived in a church at one time. He continued to correspond with his father, unopened. Jerry sent everyone back. Joseph overdosed on morphine in 2009 and died by himself. He was 45. The funeral was not paid for by Jerry. Joseph didn't even make an offer. According to his ex-wife, Gary, Joseph's brother, accused Jerry of causing the incident. He thought Joseph was driven over the brink by the rejection. Jerry gave a chilly answer when questioned about Joseph's death years later. No remorse or sorrow. Jerry gave everything to Sandy Pitnick, his second wife, and Danielle, their adoptive daughter. He had been close to Danielle, who even assisted him in running his profession in his latter years. It was evident from the will that Jerry had selected a new family, and that the previous one was no longer there. Jerry's 5th son, Anthony Lewis, described the will as being similar to inserting and rotating a knife. He was able to accept being excluded. Seeing his kids, however, was the most painful thing. Additionally, Jerry's grandchildren cut out. That was not the end of it. 3 of Jerry's sons, Anthony, Gary, and Ron, were not even invited to the funeral. People questioned why. In reality, nobody knew. Some cited his acrimonious split from Patty Palmer, his first wife. Others claimed that when Anthony filed a lawsuit against Jerry on Patty's behalf, the problems grew worse. That could have been the last straw. Anthony talked about their early years as well. Jerry might be scary, he remarked. When he got home, they would hide. He recalled being struck. He recalled the terror. Then there was still another surprise. Susan Lewis, a lady, came forward. She said that her father was Jerry. According to her mother, Lynn Dixon, a model, she was born in the 1950s as a result of an affair. Susan claimed that although Jerry never officially recognized her, he would pay her a visit when he could. When he passed away, she was homeless. She was homeless, using public facilities to wash up and keeping her belongings in a locker. It wasn't until a friend informed her of his passing that she even realized it. The distance between her and the guy she thought was her father was that great. She and Jerry's kid Gary had an 88.7% likelihood of having the same father, according to a subsequent DNA test. Nevertheless, Jerry remained silent. Anyway, despite the suffering he created in his personal life, Jerry had a side that offered hope to millions of others. He hosted the inaugural Muscular Dystrophy Association telethon in 1966, which marked the beginning of it. They raised over $1 million that evening. Jerry was taken aback. To alter the number on the board, he had to scale a ladder. The telethon rose each year after that. It was raising tens of millions by the early 1970s. Ed McMahon, Jerry's co-host, once said they would break $10 million, and they did. Jerry used a brush and his tuxedo to wipe a 1 onto the board as a way to celebrate. It turned into a cultural event. Everyone arrived. The Rolling Stones, Johnny Cash, John Lennon and Cher. Dean Martin appeared on stage with Frank Sinatra in 1976, bringing the former comedic pair back together live on television after a 20-year break. TV history was made at that time. Jerry helped generate more than $2.45 billion during the telethon. He increased awareness in addition to raising money. People cared for him. He continued year after year, frequently hosting for more than 21 hours at a time. The show earned around $60 million a year, even in his latter years. It became the MDA's lifeline. A breakthrough occurred in 1986. They found the gene that causes Duchenne muscular dystrophy. That was made possible in part by Jerry. Then something unexpected happened in 1977. Jerry received a Nobel Peace Prize nomination. There had never been a performer nominated before. Even if he didn't win, his nomination was a testament to his influence. People laughed at him. He moved them to tears and made them care. However, his narrative turned out to be more nuanced than anybody had anticipated. Jerry Lewis left behind a legacy of both genius and suffering, of family meals that were silent and stages that were full with laughter. Despite his immense contributions to the world, he was unable or unwilling to show his own children the same level of devotion. And it is the reason his narrative is so difficult to forget.